Hi. Okay, so today we're going to be learning the perfect passive infinitive. So the perfect passive infinitive is made up of the perfect passive participle, our fourth principal part, and essay. Now I have this relative clause right here explaining that the fourth principal part, which must agree in case, number, and gender with the express or implied noun or pronoun that is the subject. I have an asterisk. We will talk about this more in a moment, actually in a few slides. So right now, what is important to understand is that the perfect passive infinitive is made up of a perfect passive participle, too many P's, sorry, perfect passive participle, and essay. So my example is down here, amatus, amata, amatum, and then essay. Obviously, you're going to only have one form of amatus of that fourth principal part, but for an example's sake, I put all three. The translation is to have been loved. It is passive, so the been makes it as though the subject of our infinitive is receiving the action. I have an example sentence here. Ea poterat capta esse. She was able to have been taken or captured. It is up to you as to how you translate that. But capta esse, to have been taken or captured. I ask that you guys practice forming our perfect passive infinitive, and I give you these new vocabulary words, and just to take a moment to fill them, or sorry, not fill them in, but to form them. Okay, so hopefully you've had a moment or pause this and taken the moment to form these infinitives. Now I'm going to go to the next slide with the answers. So please pause and give yourself like a minute and a half to do this. You can do it. All right. Okay. So I asked for masculine accusative plural, so we'd have abundatos because we have first and second declension endings for our participle, and then esse. I asked for neuter, I asked for feminine nominative singular, which would be delectata and esse. Here I asked for a neuter nominative or accusative, I don't remember which, plural, and you would have used esse at the end, so lusa esse. And punitos, I asked for masculine nominative singular, and it would have been punitus esse. All right. So now we're going to learn some more new things. All right. So here's the moment I mentioned earlier, how to use the perfect passive infinitive. Okay. So I said earlier that when using the perfect passive participle as a part of the infinitive, it must agree in case, number, and gender with the expressed or implied noun or pronoun that's its subject, right? So essentially what you need to understand is that the participle needs to agree with the infinitive subject in case, number, and gender. All right? As our infinitives can be used in the same, as perfect passive infinitives can be used in the same ways that we, our other infinitives, the ways that we've learned, right? We talked about complementary and indirect statements, or how we know how to use our infinitives. There are particular ways that'll help you rather than just guessing or having to memorize a lot of things. I'm going to give you two tricks for memorizing when or what. Let me word this better. I'm giving you two tricks with particular to the use of the infinitive to help you know what is the subject. So we're going to talk about complementary infinitives first. So I summarize the complementary infinitive. It's where the infinitive completes the meaning of a verb. So it's usually used with verbs like debeo, soleo, and possum, words that don't really make sense on their own. I ought doesn't make a lot of sense, or I should doesn't make a lot of sense without a greater context. Like I should work out. but you need the workout to complete the meaning, right? Or I'm accustomed to eating, right? You need eating in order to complete the meaning of accustomed, okay? So with verbs like this, that list is not all inclusive, but with words like this, the subject of the verb, so the subject of debeo, soleo, or possum is the subject of the infinitive because the subject of the verb does the action of the infinitive. I give you an example. Pellis is the subject of debet, right? Pellis is feminine, nominative, and singular, okay? Sonata would be our participle part of our infinitive. Sonata needs to agree, because this is a complementary infinitive right here, it needs to agree with pellis in case, number, and gender. So I just told you pellis is feminine, nominative, and singular. Sonata, with this A ending, is also feminine, nominative, and singular. The translation would be as follows. The skin ought to have been healed. So the skin would be the one doing the action, would be the one, or not doing it, but would be receiving the action in this case would be healing, or be healed. And so that is why our infinitive needs to agree with our subject. All right. So that's one way, just a simple memorization. If it's a complementary infinitive, a complementary infinitive, it needs to agree with the subject of the verb, of the main verb. Simple as that. Right. In indirect statements, we have that formula. We have 3 things that you have to have for an indirect statement: a main verb, an accusative subject, and an infinitive of indirect statement. Right? The accusative subject is the subject of the infinitive, meaning that our participle of our infinitive needs to agree with the accusative subject, i.e., it's going to be it's going to be accusative. So I use the same word, pellis, but it's in the accusative form because it's an indirect statement. So is putat pelem sanatam esse. So pelem would be this accusative subject. So it is the subject of our verb, our infinitive right here. And so it is going to be accusative, self-explanatory. The M tells us it's singular, and pellis is feminine. So it's accusative, singular, and feminine. Sanatam needs to be those 3 things as well. The AM ending tells us that it is feminine, it is singular, and it is accusative. So we would translate this as, he thinks that the skin has been healed. The skin being the subject, right? It should have received the action of healing. Yeah, okay. I have a fill in a blank exercise next for you guys to work through. And so I will see you on the flip side of that.